Welcome back to our Christmas content advent calendar, where each and every day, through to the 24th of December, we're bringing you a brand new photography related video. Today, we're actually going to move a little bit away from just a straight up tutorial, and we're going to talk about this, the Sony A7R IV, and specifically, we're going to talk about that 61 megapixel sensor. And what that can do for your photography, what it allows you to do, the freedom it allows you, and really what the benefits are of having such a massive megapixel count, whether you shoot landscape, portrait, food photography, fine art, really any kind of photography. It doesn't have to be a type of photography where you need all that detail, where you need to have the ability to get really in close. Of course, that does help, but we're going to talk about how it helps all kinds of photography. Now, Sony have very kindly let me use the A7R IV for a little while. Now, I've been out shooting a bunch of different types of photography. I've been doing landscape, I've been doing portrait, I've dabbled with a few different things. I've been using the Sony 85mm f1.4 G Master lens for some portrait action. I've been using the 24-70 G Master, so that's the f2.8 version, for a bit of landscape stuff. I wanted to give you some examples of how you can use that 61 megapixels to your advantage. Now, of course, one of the big advantages of having so much resolution to play with there is you can print really big without losing any detail. It allows you really to print billboard size stuff, you know, the side of a building. You can really get some incredibly impressive images using this that can be printed massive. But that's probably not going to be something that most of us would be doing. Most of us probably don't need to pop a big poster up on the side of a skyscraper, for example. So it'd be totally fair enough if you thought, I definitely don't need that bigger megapixel count, I just don't need it. But here's the thing, when I'm shooting with the A7R IV, one of the biggest things that I'm always aware of because of 61 megapixels is that I can shoot a little bit wider than I would normally shoot. I can actually incorporate more into my shot because I can crop in really without losing much detail at all, if any, in post. It means that I can shoot a little bit wider and I can just change that up in post. I can recompose a little bit. It means that when I'm shooting events or when I'm shooting something where I'm capturing a moment, I don't have to focus quite as much on making sure that I got the exact right composition. Now, I know that sounds a bit lazy, that's not ideal, but I really like the freedom that it affords me. So for example, let's take a wedding as an example. You've got a moment happening across the room and you spin around, you know, James Bond style, to grab the photo. Maybe you've got a 70-200 on, but you don't zoom in as much as you should have done. You don't quite capture it as much as it should have been. Maybe, you know, you've managed to rotate the camera a little bit and you need to straighten it up. It doesn't really matter with 61 megapixels. As long as you nail the focus, which to be honest with the Sony, let's face it, we're gonna nail the focus, you're gonna be able to crop that later and recompose a little bit. Let's say you did shoot round, take the photo, lovely, got the moment, but it's kind of a boring composition. It's just centered up, it doesn't look great. You can actually go in later and change that up. Maybe go for a bit of rule of thirds action. You know, change that up in post later without worrying so much in the moment. Now, obviously, generally speaking, it is much better to get your composition right when you're taking the photo. 100%, I totally agree. Whatever you can do to get the result in camera, always better. That's always better. But in certain situations, especially at an event, at a wedding, something like that, where you're not always in control of when things happen and you're trying to stay out of the way, you don't want to get too involved and you don't want to be setting up flashes everywhere, you know, you can be a little bit out of the way, see something happen and need to grab that moment, need to nail it. And of course, 61 megapixels just allows you a little bit more freedom later on when you're going through, just to frame that up nicely. Of course, if you're going for something like fine art photography or landscape photography, it allows you to capture so much detail, which is such a big thing for printing. Those prints look so good because there's so much detail to play around with. Now, fine art is obviously a big one for detail. You need that detail, and the A7R IV, great for that kind of thing. And the same thing applies with cropping in later in post. When you're shooting a landscape, sometimes you might want to actually later, you might think, actually, this really is the focal point of this landscape. And at the time I wanted to capture this nice wide vista, but actually I want to go in a little bit closer and really just have this one item be the be the real focal point of the landscape. And you can do that, you can crop in because you've got so much room to play around. Now, we've mostly been talking about the 61 megapixels, the raw power of all those megapixels and what that can do for you. And that's absolutely what I wanted to focus on today. But I do want to take a minute to talk about some of the other kind of benefits that you get alongside that. So for example, when we're talking about the wedding stuff, a moment happening across the room, you know, and you turn and you've shot a little bit too wide and you want to crop later. Something that is now shooting with these cameras is so everyday to us, but really is amazing, is the IATA Focus, and really never has it been better, for me at least, than in the A7R IV. Being able to turn, and I don't even have to think for a second about the focus. You know, shooting at f1.4, no problem. Shooting at f5.6, no problem. It doesn't matter what you're shooting at. It's going to take the eye, it's going to take the eye of the person across the room and focus perfectly every time in a split second. Which means that you really don't have to worry too much. You just make sure you nail the shot. And then you can pose it up a bit later. You've got the focus. You're having a great time. Takes so much stress out of weddings. Takes so much stress out of events and stuff like that, because you are going to be nailing the shot each time. And if you don't quite nail it in camera, you can compose a little bit more in post. Now, I remember a situation where I was taking a photo of some geese. I was down by a river. It was very, very misty, and I was just kind of waiting. And I took some photos of some geese that just swam by in this mist. It was really nice, and then they were swimming away from me. I really like it. It's really minimalist. I was using the Sony A7R IV with a 24 to 70mm G Master lens. Really nice setup, but the geese were just a little bit too far away from me. So even though I was zoomed all the way at 70mm, I still had to crop quite a bit to get the photo I wanted, because I really wanted to eliminate everything from the photo except for these geese, the river, and the mist. I wanted it super minimalist. So I had to crop quite a bit. Now, that's no problem because I did do it, but I lost quite a bit of resolution by doing that. And I would love to be able to print this photo really big and have it on my wall and have it but massive, you know, because I really like it as a minimalist photo. But I think I've lost a little bit too much resolution to be able to do that. I'll print it a decent size, but not massive, you know? Now, I love the A7R IV. It's one of my absolute favorite cameras, but if I'd been shooting on the A7R IV, we wouldn't be having that conversation. I'd have it on my wall, massive. And that, for me, is the main reason that I like shooting with 61 megapixels. You never know what's gonna happen, what situation is gonna develop where you need all that detail. And I like having it. I like knowing it's there. It feels like a safety net that, yeah, I can take the photo of the geese. I can crop in until I've got the exact frame I want, even though I only have a 24 to 70 with me. I'm essentially getting like more like a 70 to 200 because I'm cropping in. And I can get the photo that I want because I've got the detail in the camera. Now, if you have any questions about the A7R IV, about 61 megapixels, anything like that, pop them down in the comments. Pop any thoughts down there you might have as well. I totally appreciate that a lot of people think, well, I'm never gonna print massive. I'm never gonna do it, so I just don't need it. No one needs 61 megapixels. I want you to know, I do actually agree that no one needs 61 megapixels. That's absolutely, no one needs that at all. But I like it. I like the option of being able to do that. And I like how much, you know, freedom and creativity it allows later on. Make sure to like and subscribe and all that cool stuff. I will see you tomorrow because there's a new video every day, right through to the 24th. And then don't worry, there'll still be new videos. Just, I might take a little bit of a break for Christmas, but you know, we'll see. But mostly, as always, thanks for watching.